The long road home. It was a chilly autumn morning in the small town of Oakdale, Georgia. The leaves were just beginning to turn, hinting at the vibrant colors to come. Amelia Johnson, a young African-American woman in her mid-20s, stood on the front porch of her modest family home, taking a deep breath of the crisp air. Amelia had grown up in this house, the youngest of 5 children. Her parents, Henry and Evelyn, had instilled in her a strong sense of pride in her heritage and a deep appreciation for the struggles faced by their ancestors. They had always encouraged her to pursue her dreams and to never let the challenges of being a young Black woman in the South deter her. Today, Amelia was embarking on a journey that would test the limits of her strength and her determination. She had been offered a prestigious fellowship at a prestigious university in New York City, and she knew that this was an opportunity that she couldn't pass up. However, leaving her family and the familiarity of Oakdale was going to be one of the hardest things she had ever done. As Amelia gazed out at the familiar streets, her mind drifted back to the events that had led her to this moment. She remembered the long nights spent studying, the endless hours of research, and the countless rejections she had faced along the way. But through it all, her family had been there to support her, to encourage her, and to remind her that she was capable of anything she set her mind to. With a deep breath, Amelia picked up her suitcase and headed to the bus station, where her family was waiting to see her off. Her parents, her siblings, and even her nieces and nephews had all come to wish her well on her journey. As Amelia hugged each of them, she felt a mix of excitement and apprehension, knowing that she was about to embark on a new chapter of her life. The bus ride to the city was long and uneventful, but Amelia used the time to reflect on all that she had accomplished and all that she hoped to achieve. She had always been a driven and ambitious young woman, and this fellowship was the culmination of years of hard work and dedication. As the bus pulled into the bustling city, Amelia felt a wave of nervousness wash over her. The streets were crowded, the buildings were towering, and the noise was overwhelming. But she steeled her resolve, reminding herself that she had prepared for this moment for years, and that she was more than ready to take on the challenge. Amelia made her way to the university campus, where she was greeted by the program director, a kind and welcoming woman named Dr. Stacy Williams. Dr. Williams showed Amelia to her dorm room, which was small but cozy, and introduced her to her fellows, a diverse group of young scholars from all over the country. As Amelia settled into her new surroundings, she couldn't help but feel a sense of excitement and trepidation. She knew that this was an incredible opportunity, but she also knew that it would be a significant adjustment. She had grown up in a tight-knit community, where everyone knew each other and looked out for one another. The bustling city of New York was a far cry from the small-town life she was used to. But Amelia was determined to make the most of her time in the city. She threw herself into her work, spending long hours in the library and the research lab. She attended lectures and workshops, eager to learn from the top scholars in her field. In her free time, she explored the city, discovering the vibrant culture and the rich history of the African American community. Despite her busy schedule, Amelia made a point to stay in touch with her family back in Oakdale. She called them every week, sharing her experiences and listening to their news. She also made the trip home whenever she could, cherishing the time she spent with her loved ones. As the months passed, Amelia's confidence and her skills grew. She excelled in her studies, and her research was garnering attention from her peers and her professors. Dr. Williams took Amelia under her wing, becoming a mentor and a friend. Amelia's hard work and dedication had paid off, and she was on the path to achieving her dreams. But even as Amelia's success in the city grew, she couldn't shake the feeling that something was missing. She loved the energy and the diversity of New York, but she also missed the familiarity and the warmth of her hometown. She longed for the simple pleasures of her childhood, the lazy afternoons spent on the front porch, the laughter of her siblings, and the comforting embrace of her parents. One day, as Amelia was walking through the park near her dorm, she stumbled upon a small African-American bookstore. Intrigued, she stepped inside, and as she browsed the shelves, she felt a sense of connection and belonging that she hadn't felt in a long time. The owner, an elderly man named Mr. Johnson, greeted her warmly, and the two struck up a conversation. Amelia found herself opening up to Mr. Johnson, sharing her experiences and her homesickness. The older man listened attentively, and then, with a warm smile, he told Amelia about a book club he had started for young African-American professionals in the city. Amelia was intrigued, and she decided to attend the next meeting. At the book club, Amelia found a community of people who shared her experiences and her values. They discussed literature, politics, and the challenges of being a person of color in a predominantly white world. Amelia felt a sense of belonging that she hadn't felt since leaving Oakdale, and she found herself looking forward to the meetings every week. As Amelia's time in the city continued, her relationships with her new friends and her mentor deepened. She became more involved in the African American community, attending events and volunteering her time. She also started to explore her own identity and her place in the world, grappling with the complexities of race and the legacy of slavery. One day, as Amelia was walking back to her dorm, she received a call from her mother. Evelyn's voice was shaky, and Amelia immediately knew that something was wrong. Amelia's father, Henry, had suffered a heart attack and was in the hospital. Amelia's heart sank, and she rushed to book a bus ticket back to Oakdale. The journey home was a blur, as Amelia's mind raced with worry and uncertainty. When she finally arrived in Oakdale, she was greeted by her family, who embraced her with tears in their eyes. Henry was stable, but the doctors had warned that he would need extensive rehabilitation and care. Amelia immediately put her fellowship on hold and threw herself into caring for her father. She spent long hours at the hospital, helping with his physical therapy and keeping him company. Her siblings and extended family rallied around them, providing support and encouragement. As Amelia tended to her father, she also found herself reconnecting with her roots and her community. She attended church services, visited with old friends, and helped out with various community projects. Amelia was struck by the resilience and strength of the African American community in Oakdale, and she was reminded of the values and traditions that had sustained her family for generations. Slowly but surely, Henry began to recover, and Amelia felt a sense of relief and gratitude. But as her father's health improved, Amelia found herself wrestling with a new dilemma. Should she return to New York and continue her fellowship, or should she stay in Oakdale and support her family? Amelia knew that the decision would not be an easy one. She had worked so hard to get to this point, and the fellowship was an incredible opportunity. But her family needed her, and she couldn't bear the thought of leaving them behind. After much deliberation, Amelia decided to stay in Oakdale. She called Dr. Williams and explained the situation, and to her surprise, the older woman was understanding and supportive. Dr. Williams assured Amelia that the fellowship would still be waiting for her when she was ready to return, and she encouraged Amelia to focus on her family's well-being. With her decision made, Amelia threw herself into her work in Oakdale. She helped out at her father's small business, and she also started volunteering at the local community center, teaching art classes to underprivileged children. Amelia found a deep sense of fulfillment in this work, and she was reminded of the importance of giving back to her community. As the months passed, Amelia's father continued to improve, and the family began to settle into a new normal. Amelia found herself reconnecting with old friends and rediscovering the joys of small-town life. She attended town hall meetings, participated in local events, and even started dating a kind and caring man named Marcus. But even as Amelia embraced her life in Oakdale, she couldn't shake the nagging feeling that she was missing out on something. The fellowship in New York had been a dream of hers for so long, and she couldn't help but wonder if she had made the right decision. One day, as Amelia was helping out at the community center, she received a call from Dr. Williams. The older woman had some exciting news. She had been offered a position at a prestigious research institute in Washington, D.C., and she wanted Amelia to join her as a research fellow. Amelia was stunned. This was an incredible opportunity, and it was exactly the kind of experience she had been hoping for. But she was also hesitant to leave her family and her community behind again. After much soul-searching, Amelia decided to accept the offer. She knew that this was a chance to further her career and to make a real difference in the world, and she couldn't pass it up. But she also made it clear to Dr. Williams that she would need to visit Oakdale regularly to check on her family and to stay connected to her roots. As Amelia prepared to leave for DC, she was filled with a mix of emotions. She was excited for the next chapter of her life, but she was also sad to be leaving her family and her community behind. Evelyn and Henry were understanding, however, and they assured Amelia that they would be there for her whenever she needed them. The move to DC was a whirlwind, and Amelia found herself quickly immersed in her work at the Research Institute. She was part of a team of brilliant scholars, all of whom were dedicated to exploring the complex history and culture of the African American experience. Amelia thrived in this environment, and she found that her time in Oakdale had only strengthened her commitment to her work. She drew inspiration from the resilience and strength of her community, and she poured her heart and soul into her research. But even as Amelia's career soared, she never forgot her roots. She made regular trips back to Oakdale, spending time with her family and reconnecting with her community. She continued to support local initiatives and mentor young people, determined to give back and to make a difference. As the years passed, Amelia's work gained recognition, and she became a respected voice in the field of African American studies. She published groundbreaking research, delivered lectures at prestigious universities, and even appeared on national television to discuss her work. But through it all, Amelia never lost sight of her ultimate goal, to use her platform to uplift and empower her community. She used her influence to advocate for social justice, support grassroots organizations, and mentor the next generation of young African American scholars. Amelia's journey had been a long and winding one, filled with challenges and triumphs. But as she stood on the steps of the US Capitol, gazing out at the city that had become her second home, she couldn't help but feel a deep sense of pride and gratitude. She had come a long way from the small town of Oakdale, but she had never forgotten where she came from. Her roots had sustained her, her family had supported her, and her community had lifted her. And now, as she looked towards the future, Amelia knew that she was ready to continue her fight for justice and equality, to honor the legacy of her ancestors, and to inspire the next generation of trailblazers. As Amelia walked through the bustling streets of DC, she couldn't help but reflect on the journey that had brought her to this point. She remembered the days when she was just a little girl, sitting on the front porch of her family's home, dreaming of a future beyond the confines of Oakdale. At the time, the world had seemed so vast and intimidating, but Amelia had always been driven by a thirst for knowledge and a desire to make a difference. She had worked tirelessly, pushing herself to excel in her studies and hone her research skills. And now, as a respected scholar and public intellectual, Amelia found herself in a position to do just that. She was using her platform to shine a light on the rich history and culture of the African American community, challenging the dominant narratives and giving voice to the stories that had long been overlooked or marginalized. One of Amelia's most recent projects was a comprehensive study of the Great Migration, the massive movement of African Americans from the rural South to the urban North in the early 20th century. She had spent countless hours poring over historical records, interviewing elders, and piecing together the complex and often heartbreaking stories of those who had made the journey. The project had been both deeply rewarding and deeply emotional for Amelia. She had been inspired by the resilience and determination of the migrants who had faced immense hardship and discrimination, but had still managed to build vibrant communities and forge new paths for themselves and their families. At the same time, Amelia had been profoundly saddened by the stories of loss, displacement, and trauma that had accompanied the Great Migration. She had come to understand that the legacy of slavery and Jim Crow continued to cast long shadows over the lives of African Americans, even decades after the civil rights movement had achieved its landmark victories. As Amelia walked through the streets of DC, she couldn't help but see the echoes of that history all around her. The city was a center of power and influence, but it was also a place where the struggle for racial justice continued to play out in complex and often painful ways. Amelia knew that her work was far from over. There were still so many stories to be told, so many injustices to be addressed, and so many young people who needed mentorship and guidance. But she was ready to take on the challenge, buoyed by the knowledge that she was standing on the shoulders of giants, the generations of African Americans who had fought and sacrificed to pave the way for her. As she made her way to the Research Institute, Amelia couldn't help but feel a renewed sense of purpose and determination. She knew that the road ahead would not be easy, but she was ready to face whatever challenges came her way. After all, she had already proven that she could overcome adversity and achieve her dreams, even in the face of daunting odds. And so, with her head held high and her heart filled with hope, Amelia Johnson stepped into the next chapter of her journey, ready to make her mark on the world and honor the legacy of her ancestors. Disclaimer: this work of fiction is a product of the author's imagination and is not intended to depict actual events or real individuals. Any resemblance to actual persons, living or dead, is purely coincidental. Copyright 2025. Anthony Kevin Pete. All rights reserved. After all, She had already proven that she could overcome adversity and achieve her dreams, even in the face of daunting odds. And so, with her head held high and her heart filled with hope, Amelia Johnson stepped into the next chapter of her journey, ready to make her mark on the world and honor the legacy of her ancestors. Disclaimer: this work of fiction is a product of the author's imagination and is not intended to depict actual events or real individuals. Any resemblance to actual persons, living or dead, is purely coincidental.